Well, after 8 weeks fighting al-Qaeda-backed militants, the French President François Hollande said that his army's campaign in Mali is in the final phase. But many Malians fear the worst could be yet to come. Arise News' Will Took has the story.
In Paris, the flags flew at half-mast. They were commemorating Staff Sergeant Harold Vormelise as he was laid to rest with full military honours. He was part of the 4,000-strong French force sent to Mali to rid the country of Islamist rebels. As France prepares to exit after its 2-month-long campaign, serious questions remain over the condition the country is being left in. With recent suicide bombings in Thessaly and Kidal, security forces are increasingly facing guerrilla-style tactics. And this fierce fighting in Gao highlights the fact safety still hasn't returned to Mali's northern regions. French and Malian troops battled for hours to clear the town hall, where jihadists had taken refuge. After the firefight was won, specialists spent time clearing the area of landmines and improvised explosive devices. The weaponry found at battle sites like this points to a well-equipped fighting force. This arsenal was seized in Gao over the last few weeks. Amongst the cache, RPGs from China, Senegalese police-issued guns, even rifles and ammunition from rebels who defected from the Malian military.
This gives us the idea that we are faced by an army, by organisations that have the capacity of an army, of a whole army. These are important means of destruction.
The fear now is surviving militants have fled across Mali's poorly guarded borders and could just as easily return.
The perception we had of this conflict was a little too simplistic, but every day that goes by we realise that it's more and more complex. All the countries from the Sahel-Saharan area are now represented among the jihadists.
As the inhabitants of Gao clean up after the latest round of fighting, any declaration of victory seems premature. Will Took, Arise News.
For more, we're joined live in the studio by Susie Dennison, author of The EU, Algeria and the Northern Mali Question. Susie, I guess the first and obvious question is, isn't this withdrawal by the French sometime next week, which is March, I guess, isn't it a little premature?
Well, I think the French government has been very clear since the beginning of their intervention that they wanted to pull out as soon as practicable and as soon as they had secured the urban areas and the situation on the ground. I think that that now we are entering what the French see as the final phase in which they will be leading in the conflict. But they've already been fighting alongside Chadian troops and of course the Malian forces themselves. And I think that what we will see now is that they will start to hand over to the African-led force, AFISMA, and plans are certainly underway too for a peacekeeping force, UN mandated as soon as the situation is secure enough. So I don't think that we've seen the end of the conflict in Mali, but we will be moving to a new phase.
But indeed, is there ever a right time for the French to leave? I mean, putting a date on it doesn't necessarily make it the right time.
No, I think that's right. I mean, I think that the first weeks of the intervention were relatively smooth and successful, but we have seen just in the last week rather heavier fighting with casualties on both sides. Now, I don't think the French government anticipate that they will be pulling out completely. Certainly in the discussions which are going on at UN level at the moment, they're talking about leaving a French base in Mali on a much longer term basis. So I think that presence will continue. But certainly they have secured the urban areas, and in terms of the military objectives which they set themselves at the beginning, that was the priority for them. But clearly security in the country will be very hard won.
The other thing I've noticed, Susie, is that there seems a disparity between what Malian forces are saying on the ground and French forces are saying. There's a bit of a disconnect, if you will.
Yeah, I think that inevitably the situation on the ground it differs in different parts of the country, and in a war situation that those lines of communication can sometimes get a bit blurred. I mean, I don't think that either party are under any illusions about how easy this is going to be now, in terms of either ensuring stability in the country itself, or ensuring development of the country and reconstruction in the post-conflict phase. I mean, these are major challenges that we've seen ahead, and we've had warnings this week from aid agencies about the fact that it's actually got more difficult since the intervention began to get supplies to the north of the country.
Has the nature of the conflict changed now? They've got the rebels out of the town, but it's now become more of a guerrilla warfare, guerrilla conflict, hasn't it?
The main focus of the fighting has now moved to the mountainous region in the north, where estimates about how many thousands of the rebel groups are hiding vary. But yes, clearly the terrain has changed, and that nature has changed. And what will be critical now will be getting troops involved who have experience of that kind of fighting.
Susie, the other thing, I saw an FT article last week saying that those mountain regions that you talk about could be France's Tora Bora. And I think this is what France is trying to avoid, being there for the long term. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Being drawn in, being dragged in.
Yeah, I mean, I think comparisons are always difficult because clearly the very specific circumstances vary from conflict to conflict. But it does seem that the French government is being very careful about managing that comparison and trying to ensure that as soon as they can, they hand over to that peacekeeping force under the umbrella of the UN.
Susie Dennison.